Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for this webinar. As you know, Visa and Mastercard have announced some major changes to their interchange. Our goal today is to give you an overview of the changes Visa and Mastercard are making to their interchange program and rates to help you better understand what's coming your way before the changes take effect in April and May. It is our hope that you will sign off from this webinar with a clearer picture of what these changes are and how they may impact your business. We are happy to have Jonathan and Mabel with us today. Jonathan and Mabel are both on the pricing team here at Moneris and manage pricing for our merchant accounts. They're going to walk us through the updates and without further ado, I will hand it over to Jonathan and Mabel.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As mentioned, I'm part of the pricing team here at Moneris, and a large part of my day-to-day is understanding the changes and impacts of the Mastercard and Visa upcoming changes for April and May. This is to ensure that we pass them through correctly to our merchant base as well as how it impacts us as an acquirer. I also have Mabel with me here today to help us walk through the details.
Hi everyone, my name is Mabel and I work closely with Jonathan to analyze the changes from card brands and how they impact our merchants. In this webinar, we're hoping to help clarify all the changes that Visa and Mastercard are introducing in April and May.
Okay, so we're going to start with the basics of what is interchange. And essentially, interchange is an amount that card processors such as us are required to pay credit card issuers and financial institutions for each credit or debit card transaction processed by us with our merchants. Interchange rates are set and regulated by card brands and can vary based on card types such as basic cards, premium cards, corporate cards, the type of transaction capture such as a chip transaction, a manually swiped transaction, or an online transaction, and what type of business you are, which is your merchant category code. So today if you're gas or grocery, as an example. How interchange relates to your processing costs today, and this slide that we're looking at here is directed at cost plus type of pricing, which is interchange plus or simplified pricing in the Moneris portfolio. And how we calculate that is to provide transparency. Why we do that is provide transparency. And what you're looking at here is essentially how your total processing cost is calculated. So we have the interchange and wholesale discount rates, which are taken and passed through directly to you. The network assessment fees, again, pass through directly to you, plus our Moneris transaction fee. So the first two components, the interchange and the network assessment fees, are common to all acquirers. These are the costs from the card brands to us for processing these transactions. So why the card brands are making changes? So as part of the ongoing commitment to the Canadian government, both Visa and Mastercard have announced changes to their interchange in order to lower the domestic consumer interchange fees from an average of 1.5% today to an annual average of 1.4%, and to hold that average for the next 5 years. So how they are doing this is essentially two different strategies adopted by Visa and Mastercard. So Visa is essentially keeping their interchange program for the most part intact. They're introducing a couple new interchange programs and updating existing rates. So this will take effect April 18th of this year. And again, this is more of a tweak to their existing interchange program. Mastercard, on the other hand, is taking a very different approach in the fact that they are kind of doing away with a large part of what constitutes their interchange program today. So they will change the majority of their domestic interchange structure and introduce new domestic interchange programs and rates, and their effective date is May 1st of this year. And now I'll turn it over to Mabel to go over the Mastercard changes.
So today we're actually going to go through the Mastercard changes first, simply because they are by far the most complicated and it is the biggest change. So today you are used to seeing interchange programs from Mastercard that are based on industry characteristics, either industry segments or merchant category code and or volume. With the exception of charity and utilities, which are MCC based, they've decided to eliminate all of their existing interchange programs and instead opt to assign interchange rates based on the level of risk of the transaction. So what does this new interchange structure look like? In this slide, what we wanted to do was to give you a high-level overview of how the new structure is. What we've done here is show you two groupings, the card present on your left and card not present on your right. Card present environment represents your brick and mortar stores or your physical locations. Card not present typically represents your online businesses. Just so you know, card present environments or brick and mortar stores, those transactions processed in these environments tend to be less risky, and therefore you'll see that interchange rates related to the transactions processed in a brick and mortar or physical location will typically draw lower interchange rates than the transactions that are processed in a card not present or online environment. But as you can see, even within these two groupings, that there are different levels of interchange rates based on the degree of or level of risk. So in a card present environment or brick and mortar store, contactless transactions will draw the lowest interchange rate. So it would be good if you do not already have your devices enabled for contactless, that is something that you will want to do, because then you will draw the lowest interchange rates. On the flip side, in a card not present environment, the transactions that draw the lowest interchange are what we call 3DS transactions. 3DS is technically an industry term, and it stands for 3 Domain Secure. It is a service that is offered by all card brands, including Mastercard, and whereby the acquirer, issuer, and card network authenticate the cardholders prior to the transaction to reduce the risk of fraud. So this is the least risky type of transaction in a card not present environment. So as I've mentioned before, what Mastercard is doing is actually eliminating a lot of their existing programs. So as you can see here, the list on the left shows you all of the interchange programs that exist today that they are eliminating. They are also going to keep some of their interchange programs and updating them, which include standard, charity, and some of their commercial programs. And kind of to denote what we showed before, these are the new interchange programs that they're introducing. So card present, EMV, which is your chip transactions, unsecured card present, which is basically your your Meg Swipe transactions, digital commerce, which is basically your online transactions. They're also introducing a new contactless program. So just to give you a little bit more background information, currently Mastercard has a contactless interchange program, but it's specific for for a transaction size that is under $25. All contactless transactions that are over $25 are technically categorized under the electronic interchange program. In the new contactless interchange program, it doesn't matter what your transaction size is, as long as it is a contactless transaction, you will draw the interchange rates associated to that contactless interchange program. Again, as mentioned before, Mastercard is also introducing a 3DS interchange program. Today, Mastercard actually brands their 3DS, or again, what we call 3 Domain Secure transactions, as its Mastercard Secure Code. What's also new that Mastercard is introducing are interchange programs specific to card present refunds and card not present refunds. And we'll get more into the dynamics of how that works later on in the presentation. So as you can see from the previous slides, if you if you have transactions that fall into an Interchange program today, there really isn't a one-to-one relationship between an Interchange program today and where you will go tomorrow. Instead, you can see that it's literally a one-to-many relationship versus a one-to-one relationship. As a result, it's very difficult or complex to really understand what the potential impact would be. However, don't worry, in the upcoming slides, we'll actually go through each and every existing Interchange program today, and based on the new structure, where you may fall tomorrow, in May. What we wanted to do here, though, in this slide is to give you a high-level overview of where you likely may see a positive or a decrease in interchange rates, where you may see an increase in interchange rates, and where you really just depends on your card mix or card type of mix of transactions that you process. So for programs that will likely see a lower rates are today's programs, which is electronic, everyday spend, merchant volume tier 2, merchant volume tier 3. As you can see, we've listed out your interchange rates today, and come May 1st, they could fall into either unsecured card present EMV, or contactless. Please note that the green rates show that there will be a decrease in rates, and the orangish red color will denote an increase in rates. So in this particular scenario, you'll see that if you have transactions that fall typically in electronic, everyday spend, merchant volume tier 2, or merchant volume tier 3, you will mostly see lower rates. Just to give you, I know that what might be new on this slide is also a new column called Muse. Just so you know, Mastercard has decided to introduce a new card product type called Muse, and it's basically a elite premium credit card that's meant to compete with other card brands' more elite cards. Based on our conversation with Mastercard, Mastercard does not expect the Muse card to cannibalize any of their World or World Elite portfolio. Another program that will see lower rates is Merchant Volume Tier 1. Again, you can see the rates listed above here, and the green denotes lower rates, and the reddish-orange denotes higher rates. Again, if you fall under this category and you typically process chip transaction or contactless transactions in a card-present environment, you will see a decrease in rates. So basically, if you are in a card-present environment, please don't, do meg swipes. That's basically what unsecured card-present represents. The next programs that we're going to look into is supermarket or high-volume supermarket. Again, as long as you are processing transactions either through a chip, card-present EMV, or contactless, you will see a decrease in interchange rates. Again, petroleum, you can see your rates listed as follows, and come May 1st, you will see a decrease in rates, especially if you do contactless transactions and also if you do a chip transaction. So programs that will see higher rates. So in one of the previous slides, I did say that Secure Code is Mastercard's branded 3DS product or service. As you can see, even though 3DS or Secure Code draws the lowest interchange rates in a card not present environment, unfortunately it is still increasing from where it is today. Other programs that will see higher rates are if you fall under the recurring or Masterpass interchange rates today, you will see an increase and they'll fall into the new interchange program, digital commerce. Programs that will really depend on your card type will be Carity. So Carity, as mentioned before, is the interchange program is not going away. However, they are adjusting some of their rates. The core and world rates are going down, and World Elite is increasing. Typically, in a card mix environment, you would typically see a higher volume of transactions falling under core and world. So in general, we expect most charities to see a decrease overall, but again, it really depends on your card mix. Programs that also will depend on the type of transaction is today would be your standard interchange program. So transactions that fall under the standard interchange program include also just online transactions. So if you do just online transactions, what we expect that your rates to actually could decrease. So for example, it would fall under the new digital commerce interchange program. As you can see, for World and World Elite, the rates are going down, but for Core, it is going up. If you are keying in transactions in a physical device, this will fall under the standard program today, but will also fall into the standard interchange program tomorrow. And you can see for Core and World, the interchange rates are going up. As I mentioned before, currently contactless transactions under $25 fall under a special interchange program, whereby you would get 5 cents, 6 cents, or 7 cents, depending on the card type. Contactless transactions that are over $25 technically are categorized under the electronic program today. So for the contactless transactions that you process today that are under $25, it could increase or decrease. It really just depends on the average transaction size, given the fact that you were before working with cents, and now it's now based on basis points. However, for contactless transactions today that are over $25 that fall under the electronic interchange program today, you can see that interchange rates will be going down. So emerging and public sector programs, these programs are probably going to be unfortunately impacted the most, whereas the other interchange programs up until now were specific to card present environment only. The current emerging and public sector programs are applied to both card present as well as card not present environments. So in a card present environment, as you can see here, emerging and public sector programs, they should still see a decrease in interchange rates. As you can see, a lot of the rates as of May 1st are in green, and that means a decrease. However, in a card not present environment, you will see that the interchange rates are significantly increasing. The emerging sector and public sectors had a very good preferential rates, and as you can see, they're increasing quite a bit. If you look at the core, it's 1%, and if you're doing a lot of online transactions in this area, and let's say you typically fall under a digital commerce category as of May 1st, that's an increase from 1 to 1.76 under the core card type. Mastercard is also updating their commercial programs. So currently they have one category, and the interchange rate is 2%. What they've decided to do is break out the interchange into 3 buckets. So small, medium enterprise interchange program, a large market, and then they created a World Elite for Business, whereby instead of it being 2%, they've actually increased it to 2.25. So refund interchange program. So currently speaking, if you're in a Interchange Plus or a simplified pricing method with Moneris, the interchange that you get on a refund, you actually get back. So usually in today's world, if you have a chip transaction and you have an interchange rate and you're charged that interchange, you will get the same interchange rate back on a refund. Unfortunately, come May, Mastercard has decided that there's new interchange rates assigned specifically for refunds, and typically they're lower. So as you can see here, for unsecured card present and card present EMV, you can see the interchange rates related to purchases. Again, typically today, if it was the same structure, you would get whatever you get charged on the purchase, you would receive back the interchange rate on a refund. However, instead of receiving the same interchange rate back, you will actually receive the interchange rates associated with the new refund interchange program. So again, let's go through an example. So suppose I go into Jonathan's bookstore and I buy a book and I use my core card and I process the transaction using my chip. Jonathan will be charged 0.92%. However, I take the book back home and I don't like it. What happens is I'll go back into the store and again I'll ask for a refund, and I'll also insert my card for a chip transaction. Instead of receiving 0.92% back on the refund, Jonathan won't receive 0.92%. He will actually receive 0.55% back.
Great example.
And
now I'll just take it to Jonathan for visa changes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mabel. As mentioned earlier, the visa changes are nowhere near as complex as the Mastercard changes, so I get off easy on this one, I guess. So going over the changes to interchange program, so what Visa is doing is removing the Performance Tier 2 program, and they're updating by updating the Emerging Segments program, and the Performance Tier 1 program is being renamed to just a Performance Card Present program. So Tier 2 will be gone, Tier 1 will be renamed to just Performance Program Card Present. What Visa is doing is adding a utility fee program, an Emerging Segment Preferred Fee program, and if you qualify for the Performance program, they are adding a Card Not Present component as well. So what you can see here is the current versus the new rates effective April 18th, and there's a lot of green on the board, meaning reductions in interchange. The good news from Visa is there is no increases in interchange. Worst case scenario, as you can see in the emerging segments, they are keeping the rates fairly flat. Some new interchange rates that are going in, as mentioned, was the Performance Program for Card Not Present. So again, if you qualify for the Performance Program, typically in today's environment, the Performance Program is only applied to card-present electronic transactions. Tomorrow you will also get a 5 basis point incentive or reduction on your Card Not Present programs. The big one here is the introduction of the Utilities Program, and you'll notice that at 75 cents, that's significantly higher than Mastercard's Utilities Program, which is 10 cents. However, considering that the Utilities Program is geared toward gas and hydro and water merchants, where the average bill is $200 to $300, the previous interchange would have cost you, which would have been emerging, would have cost you $2 to $3 per transaction if you were using consumer cards, and then it would go up from there if you went to infinite or infinite privilege cards. Tomorrow you'll be paying 75 cents across the board no matter what card you're using, so that does represent a significant increase or decrease in interchange. A couple new consumer debit interchange programs to match the new programs introduced on credit, which is the Utilities and the Emerging Segments Preferred Program. So in summary, what we're looking at here is, again, why are the card brands going through these changes? So again, it is to get to the promise done to the government to bring average consumer domestic interchange down from an average of 1.5 down to an average of 1.4. So how is this going to impact your overall cost of processing? Again, it depends. So for Visa across the board, you are most likely going to see, you will see a decrease. There will be very few industries that you will be flat unless it's a very specific industry with all corporate cards or something like that. for the most part, 99.9% of all merchants will see a reduction in Visa interchange. For Mastercard, what you're going to see on average is that if you take card-present transactions, if you're a brick-and-mortar merchant, your interchange is going to significantly decrease. And for the most part, if you're card-not-present transactions, you may see a slight increase. However, I just want to add that the typical transaction for card-not-present in Mastercard is your online merchants. And if you're not using 3D Secure today, you will most likely see a reduction in interchange based on your card mix, as Mabel alluded to earlier. Because while core cards are going up by 11 basis points, premium and World Elite cards World and World Elite cards are coming down by over 20 basis points. So based on a typical card mix, you should see a reduction in interchange if you are an online merchant today not using the 3D Secure tool.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan, for that awesome summary and going over all the Visa changes, as well as Mabel for walking us through some of the more complex Mastercard updates. So in this last section, we're going to take a moment and just answer some of the top or most commonly asked questions that we've encountered so far. So the first question we have here, Jonathan raised his hand to answer this one. Why are Visa and Mastercard making these changes?
Again, it's the promise to the Government of Canada to lower average domestic interchange. And again, the two strategies is Visa reducing everything across the board, and typically if the average or the target is 1.4, their card-present transactions are a little below that. Their card-not-present transactions are a little above that. So the standard deviation on either side of the 1.4 for card-present versus card-not-present is much smaller for Visa. Mastercard, on the other hand, is taking a more aggressive approach in terms of their standard deviation from the target of 1.4. So card-present transactions, as you saw in the previous slides, are much lower than 1.4. For the most part, card-not-present transactions are much higher than 1.4.
And I think that even though Mastercard is taking a more aggressive approach, is to help reduce the overall risk of fraud for merchants, as they'll be encouraged to use more secure technology with their payment processing.
Exactly.
Awesome. And the next question we have is there anything I can do to qualify for a lower interchange rate on my transaction?
I can take that one. So basically, based on looking at what Mastercard is doing, there are a couple of things that merchants can do to lower or qualify for lower interchange rates. Again, if you are processing transactions in a card-present environment or a brick-and-mortar or physical location store, what you can do is enable contactless transactions on your devices if you have yet to do so. Another thing that is important as well is to ensure that you close your batch on time and make sure your transactions are settled on a timely manner. It is Moneris's, we say the best practice is to close your batch daily. The reason being is that for both Visa and Mastercard, by the way, they have something called the timeliness criteria. So if there's a lag between when the transaction is processed versus when it's actually settled and clear, which is when you close your batch, they consider that to be riskier, and therefore they do not qualify your transaction as part of what the interchange rate program would be based on that transaction, and actually could downgrade it. So for example, if, again, using Jonathan's bookstore as an example, if I go in and I use my card and I process it as a contactless transaction, and Jonathan, next week decides to then close his batch versus closing it daily, what happens is that the interchange rate associated with that transaction will no longer qualify for a tipped transaction, but instead it will be downgraded to receive an interchange rate associated to, let's say, a mag swipe.
All right, those are some helpful tips
Yeah, for sure. So that was from a card present environment. Again, for a card not present environment, using more secure technologies, for example, like 3D Secure, would make sure that you draw the lowest interchange rate based on the environment that you operate in.
Awesome. And that's a great segue into this question. Can you have recurring 3DS?
Okay, I'll take that one. So in the current version of 3DS available in the Canadian marketplace, you cannot have recurring transactions. So for Mastercard in particular, recurring transactions would come through as digital commerce. Visa again would pick up the recurring interchange, but Mastercard would go to digital commerce interchange.
All right, and the next one, what is the difference between and how do I qualify for Visa standard versus card not present and Mastercard standard versus Merit 3 digital commerce?
Okay, I can take that one. So basically for both Visa and Mastercard, the standard interchange program is kind of meant to be a default interchange program if they cannot qualify the transaction otherwise. If there's missing some sort of data field or something gets lost in translation, it will default to the standard kind of catch-all interchange program. Standard interchange programs for both Visa and Mastercard also applies to if you're keying in a transaction in a physical device. That is, by far not safe at all in terms of risk level, and therefore it gets the highest interchange rate, which is associated to the standard interchange program. For Visa card not present and Mastercard digital commerce, these are really meant for transactions that are done typically online.
And last but not least, are the Visa and Mastercard changes applicable to all acquirers?
Okay, I'll take that one. So yes, the Visa and Mastercard changes are applicable to all acquirers because interchange is a common cost of doing business to all acquirers. So all acquirers are responsible for Visa and Mastercard interchange equally, and there is no difference between acquirer. So how your acquirer passes it through to you may differ on your pricing type. So typically our merchants are on Interchange Plus or simplified pricing. So we break out the interchange and the assessment fees and clearly demonstrate those as pass-through from the card brands. And our Moneris transaction fee is essentially our revenue for carrying the transaction. However, there are other pricing methods out there that have a flat fee or interchange differential or tiered, where you can't clearly distinguish what is interchange and assessment fees and the like. However, again, we can assure you that all acquirers have the same costs, which are interchange and assessments from the card brands.
Awesome. Thank you for answering those questions, guys. That was really helpful. And if you want any additional resources or any additional information on the upcoming changes, please feel free to go to the website listed on this slide, moneris.com/PCNO fee updates. There's a list of FAQs as well as more details of the Visa and Mastercard changes. And that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you again, Mabel and Jonathan, for walking us through the presentation. And thank you guys for joining us, and we hope that we can leave you with a better understanding of what the upcoming changes entails and how they may impact your business. All right, thanks everyone, and have a great day.